Hey, you guys, I just got done with the run. I'm 62. And um some somebody was saying that they were told that getting older means just watch out for your knees. When I was a real estate agent, some of my clients were people that were trying to downsize or upsize from a two-story home to one-story home because they figured as they got older, they would no longer be able to go up the stairs. And I remember thinking, that is the wrong way to look at it. I would be thinking, if I can walk up the stairs, I better get in some better shape. Because when I was a little girl in Germany, my grandfather was still going up those stairs, those long stairs. Just a little side note, my grandfather in Germany had a bunker in his backyard that we used to play in as kids. And during World War II, the US soldiers took over his home and they trashed it. But I digress. So, there are two things that people are not realizing that older people did not know because that knowledge was not available until more recently. Is neuroplasticity and epigenetics. Okay, what is that? Neuroplasticity means that our brain is constantly reshaping itself to what we are doing, our thoughts and our behaviors and our activities. That's why it's so important to realize that whatever behaviors we repeat, we're wearing like grooves in our brain. Like, that's why I try to not get upset with people so easily, because if you get upset every time, your brain gets used to get upset every time. And they used to say that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. That's wrong. They've done certain studies where like they had like somebody who was like a taxi driver started playing piano, or someone started driving a taxi, and then the part of their brain that had to do with learning the roads and the landscape and so on grew. So at any age, you can learn new skills and new activities, and that part of your brain will grow. It's called neuroplasticity. Of course, young children are the most neuroplastic because they're growing new neurons all the time, and then they're pruning those neurons. That's also the time it's easiest to learn languages. But we always have a neuroplastic brain. If I start learning how to play poker, the part of my brain that has to do with analytical thinking and math and all that stuff is going to grow. Okay? Now, that also applies to fitness. Like, I have been working on a bunch of fitness stuff. So many people are coming to the park now, and the cars are loud. Anyway, so I have been working on remolding my body, making certain parts stronger, working on my breathing, and it's working. Like, I am transforming things. I'm getting stronger in certain areas. Every time I work out, I have a certain goal in mind, just like I did when I was hooking up with guys after my divorce. Like, what is my purpose? So I am able to build muscle in certain areas, gain more balance, work on my breathing. My swim stroke on Thursday was so good. I recently started swimming. So it's never too late, you guys. It's never too late. Neuroplasticity. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is epigenetics. This is another topic that's fascinating to me. So our DNA, our biology determines a lot of things, but we also know the environment influences us as well. And these two actually interact because the influence of the environment, the type of people we're around, or the air, the food, can turn on or off certain parts of the genes. So, for example, you might be born with a gene that makes you more predisposed to breast cancer. But if you don't live in a toxic environment and you eat really well and you exercise, that part of the gene may never turn on or be expressed. The epigenetics is especially fascinating because it skips generations. And what's really interesting, if you look up the Epigenetics Dutch famine study, this is so interesting. They found that, I want to read this to you guys. A study found that people exposed to famine during the Dutch hunger winter had less DNA methylation of the imprinted IGF-2 gene 60 years later. I don't know exactly what that means, but here are the results. Children whose mothers were in utero during the famine were heavier at birth, while those whose fathers were exposed in utero were heavier in adult life. So if your mother was in the womb, like a fetus growing in the womb during the famine, then you were more likely to be heavier at birth. So that's the next generation, right? Not just the baby growing during the famine. They also found that babies born soon after the end of the famine initially appeared to suffer few ill effects, but as they reached middle age, they had an unusually higher prevalence of heart disease and other metabolic disorders. At age 58, both men and women exposed to famine in early gestation had poorer cognitive function. Agreeableness, women exposed to famine in early gestation had higher scores on the personality test agreeableness, while men had lower scores on the Big Five personality trait conscientiousness. But I think that I didn't get all of it because there was like okay, so prenatal exposure to the famine had permanent effects on health outcomes that emerged later in life among the offspring. So the effects on health later in life were most pronounced among those exposed to famine in early gestation. But I think I was wrong because I thought that it impacted the next generation, not just the generation in utero. This is where it just had to do with birth weight. So it's only for the birth weight that there was a next generation influence. So anyway, but for sure in our lifetime, for sure, the epigenetics plays a huge role. So that's why I don't like when they ask you at the doctor's office, okay, who in your family had, heart disease or cancer, because they used to think that it was all genetic. So if your parents or grandparents had high blood pressure or cancer, you were more likely to have it. But they're ignoring epigenetics. They're ignoring that people have a lot to say over the outcome in their lives. And even when it comes to like how we see the world, we know about cognitive behavioral therapy, that how we see the world is based on our own reality, how we choose to see the world. You can see the world as bad or as good. I mean, just look at how some people think Kamala Harris is the greatest and some think she's like the worst. Same person, we're just seeing it differently, and how some men love women and some men think women are just awful, and some women love men and some women think all men are awful, So that goes to Carl Jung saying, until the unconscious is made conscious, it will rule you and you will call it fate. You will say, this is just how the world is, this is fate. But it's your unconscious, your thoughts, that are directing how you see the world. And epigenetics is your body's responding to how you treat yourself. And then neuroplasticity also comes into play. So we can always change ourselves. That's what I want to say. We're not victims. Unless you live in a war zone, you're not a victim. You can change everything, at least your outlook. So that's what I wanted to say. And that's why it's BS to say that old people, watch your knees and all that. That's bullshit. You can always build muscle. That's why strength training is super important. When I was younger, it was all cardio. Strength training, a little bit of cardio, a good night's sleep, eat clean food. And I feel pretty good after this run today. Yeah, I don't believe any of that negative thinking that people were telling us. We have to be careful what thoughts we let in. You know, there's a lot of pollution out there. And guys, I would warn you against watching manosphere content. Most of it is very polluting. It's going to bring you down and make your life worse when you get radicalized by negative ideas that are not even based on reality. The same way of saying that age, you know, when you're old, you become useless or you can't walk up the stairs. That's all delusional, limited, negative thinking. So that's just all I want to say. Definitely as we get old, we definitely lose muscle tone. You know, our skin's going to start sagging a little bit. We're going to get wrinkles. Yes, that's for sure. And, but we're also going to gain wisdom. So, you know, we just have to accept that goes with it. I do not like my wrinkles, but I'm in better shape now than I was when I was 20. I'm stronger, I'm fitter, and I'm wiser. And, you know, I don't think anybody really likes getting old. You know, I don't think people like getting old. I don't think people like being poor. I don't think people like having no voice, having their speech silenced, the fear of dying alone. Like, we have these existential things, but we're an animal form. Like, we are animals in our bodies. So, you know, we poop, we eat, we fart. Let's get real. We're animals in our bodies, you know. People try to be like, oh, we're spiritual beings. Yes, we are. Spiritual beings in physical form. So I'm speaking now of the physical form and our duty to maintain our physical form. That's going to make your life a lot better. But, you know, it takes energy. It takes energy. It's not for the lazy, you know. And if you look at nature, only the strong survive. Not everyone survives. Not everybody gets the girl. Not everybody gets the guy. Not everybody gets the good job. It's for the fittest and it's for the strongest. And that's just life. So just do the best we can to make the most out of the body that we're given in the society that we're given. And that's where we have choice. Like I said, just to wrap it up, neuroplasticity, epigenetics, cognitive behavioral therapy. We have a lot of power over how our life goes. And if I always say, if my life isn't going the way I want, I have to just look at myself. The only thing though is that we can't control everything. Like, I cannot control the fact that we're in a war, in all these wars. I cannot control for the fact that the dollar is being devalued. I cannot control for the fact that there are fewer single men now than there were when I was 20. Okay? I cannot control for that. So certain things we just have to accept. Thanks for watching my video, you guys. I'm Sharzad Morgan, and thank you for watching my video.